Hello and welcome to Lutys Chainsaw Mods. I've got a ms362 which I stripped down because the crank bearings are gone. I got this unit second hand and all the balls were scored. It was a right mess when I had it. I put a new cylinder bore on it to start with, and I got it going, but it just sounded a bit rumbly, you know, so I put the saw up. I only used it for a little while, put the saw up, and I concentrated on me CS580 performance saw for a while. Anyway, the other day I was taking a branch off a tree out there. I don't know whether you can see it. Tree up there by the little birdhouse, and you can see where I cut the piece off. Quite a big branch. Anyway, my ms362 was obviously out of action, and I thought I might give me little 017 a go, ms017 still, and I started it up. Started the ms up, the 017, and I'm warming it up. Put it down, sorted the ladder out, and then I put it down, set everything up, ready to do the job. I thought, well, the 017 would be perfect for taking that branch off. Don't want to really use the big ones. And anyway, I got everything set up, went back down the ladder, picked up the 017, fired it up. It was a bit warm, but I was just running it slow to start with a little bit. Then I got it up to full revs. It spat back at me, stopped, and it wouldn't start. So I tried easy starting it. I tried everything, it wouldn't start. So in the end I had to cut that branch off with one of the big saws. I got the that's what's happened to the 017. See the scores in the piston, and you'll never guess what that was from. Let's just get it over here. I mean, it's buggered all the it's buggered the bloody all the bore up and everything. It's put grooves down the bore. So I stripped my 017 down, and I left this ms362 was going to be my next job, but I thought, well, I'll just have a look, see what's gone wrong with it. There's another score there, look. Oh, I don't know if that light's very good in here. Maybe that way be better. So there's one there that goes across the rings, and there's two that side, really deep scores. So I thought, oh, what the heck's come loose? Something small's gone on this. So you see the gudgeon pin clip, the circlip. It's got a little tail on the circlip there, look, to make it a bit easier to get out. Well, the one on that side came off, look, no circlip. So obviously that's what ruined the engine. I mean, the circlips, that circlip's got a little tail on it to help you get it out, help you get the circlip in and out, which it does obviously. But anyway, I was thinking about it and I thought, well, because that circlip, the tail sticks up, I mean, these things rev 12, 13,000 RPMs quite often, which is, it works out to something like 200 exhaust pulses in a second, which that's the kind of speed they're going at. So I think the tail was probably vibrating, the tail on that circlip, and I think eventually it just fatigued, snapped off and went straight down the bore and ruined the saw. So I ordered some bits for it. I ordered a new cylinder, piston, and there was a bit of play in the bearings, so I thought, well, I'll get a set of them as well. I got the whole lot off I don't know where I got it from, somewhere off the internet. The whole lot was like, I think it's 26 quid for the whole lot, like complete engine. It's a what they call a clamshell engine on that, which means it doesn't have a separate cylinder like most saws like this, which you can just pull off the actual, pull out of the case. Okay, what the clamshell one, which is used on smaller saws, which is like this. So you have basically the housing for the crank bearings at the bottom there, the whole cylinder, and they call it a clamshell because it has a sub on the bottom. Looks a little bit like a clamshell, not a great deal, but that's why they call it a clamshell engine. So there's me, basically that's me 017 waiting to be built up now. I've got all the bits, because all the bits have arrived. But in the meantime, I had a go. I started on me ms362. I was going to port this saw anyway, this ms362. I hadn't got round to it at this point, by this point, but I was always going to port it, and just trying to get this camera right for you. I was always going to port it, hadn't done at this stage. So I thought these can be a nightmare. This type of saw can be a nightmare to split the casings. You've got to split the casings obviously to get the crank bearings out, to get the crankshaft out, and they can be an absolute nightmare. You can get special tools for doing these, and the special tools is pretty good actually. So you can get there's two types. Now the one type, if you can see in there, the one type has like a fork that goes against the casing here alongside the crank, and then it comes up here over the top and down, and then at the side it pushes on the end of the crank here, so it's got a bolt to push on it, so it's basically pulling at the crankcase, pushing on the actual crankshaft on the end, and then they will split them apart. Once you can get the one case off, then realistically, I mean, I've got a press here. Obviously I pressed mine out once I got that off, but you could use sockets and hammer, pieces of wood and stuff, as long as you're careful with it. Don't overdo it too much, like, because the delicate casings really, and the rest, once you split it, the rest of the job is a piece of cake really. but splitting it is a nightmare, and this is why I haven't filmed this, because it just, once I'd stripped the saw down to this sort of stage, I did have this off as well. I've obviously rebuilt it all, and I put the crank back in, bearings and seals and everything. And the reason I did that was because of how long it took me to blink in. I knew it'd take a long time, you know. I haven't done one on a ms362 before anyway, and I knew it would be difficult, a bit of a difficult job to split. So that's why I didn't film it, like so. So there's that. Now, the way I split mine, because I haven't got a special tool, I thought I would just show you what I did. Might come in handy for somebody. So what I did, I got this piece of threaded bar, a few nuts, washer and what have you, and I'm not going to, I don't know if I'm going to get that in there actually. I'm not going to undo it all, take it apart, but I can just basically show you what I did, okay? Let's just turn that camera down just a fraction. Okay, so what I did, I got a piece of wood, put it on top of the case there, and I took this nut off and the washer, threaded it all through so it's basically sitting like that. So at this end is going to be pushing against the piece of wood. What I did, I tensioned it up. You see this, because this is so thin here, if you overdo it, you're going to snap this wing off. So what I did, I set me bit of a press thing up that I made, the threaded bar, put some pressure on here. Once I'd obviously got all the bolts out of it, put some pressure on here, and then remember this was off as well, this the brake. And then what I did, because the chain brake was off, I could access all along here. All the bolts are out, the weight's on at the back between the two wings, and I basically hit along here, kept hitting along there with a soft hammer, and I kept tensioning up my tool every so often, and eventually it did come apart. The reason that they're tight is not because of they're stuck on the gasket, it's because they are tight on the bearings. So then they will never be that tight on the gasket. It is always the bearings that they're tight on. And I got it apart. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Now I put mine together, and I've used, I don't know whether you can see under there, I've got some blue grease, put it all over the gasket, and I assembled the bearings and everything with this grease. Any grease would do, to be fair, because hopefully if I ever do have to do it again, it may come apart a little bit easier. So that's it. So the job itself, it's not a bad job really, as long as you can split the case. Now, I'd like to just show you a few things of what I've done to this. I've ported this now, ported this saw. I'll just, so I know it's difficult looking at that because I've got this camera turned round so I can see what you can see. And it's a bit I don't know whether you're going to be able to see that. Maybe there. Maybe there actually. Might be better. Let's get that wedged up. Okay. So these sections here, here, and obviously the other side, those are the spaces where your transfer ports sit over. Okay, so when the piston goes up, sucks in the air fuel mixture, and as it comes down, it pressurizes the air fuel mixture into the crankcase, and it does it so fast and so hard that the mixture has to come up, and obviously it comes through this section here and then into the transfer ports and then into the top of the piston. So what I've done to make it flow a little bit easier, I've chamfered the edge of this case, because this was a sharp edge along here. So chamfered the case to encourage the fuel air mixture to come up. Then I've port matched this part of the case to the cylinder. So now this is, I've just taken it back probably about a millimetre, I think. I've done it on all the 4 port orifices in the cases, see, all round. You can probably tell because obviously it was originally painted white inside. You can see where I've taken out the material. Okay, so that's basically how you port a crankcase. I mean, you can go further than that. They do things now called turbo crankshafts, where they basically cut wedges into the weights. So they'll cut like oh, there we are. Cut diamond shapes into the crank weights all the way across, both of them, and it acts a bit like a fan, if you like. So it encourages the fuel air mixture, it drags it down as the crank goes down and then pushes it up into the ports as it turns. That's the turbo crank. That's quite a new thing, really. Well, I say new, I mean probably not that yet new, but relatively. But I don't want to really, at the end of the day, all my saws, yeah, it's, you know, it's my hobby to try and get them going a bit better, because I just enjoy doing it. But I still use all my saws and I still want them usable, so I'm not going to go that far. But that's the crankcase ported. And I've ported the cylinder, so I've gone through the exhaust. Okay, the inlets, because this ms362c, these have a twin choke carb, so they have 2 ports, and they have quad transfers inside, so the ports obviously feed them transfers. See them that side, so you got like, well, 6, you got 6 transfers in there, 3 up that side of the cylinder, 3 in that side of the cylinder, which I've basically this is a good tool that I got. This is like a little Dremel, but obviously it's thinner than a Dremel, you know, so you can get right inside and without doing any sort of damage or anything. Now you'll notice on the bottom that the skirt's cut away in sections. There Now, some people leave the skirts on. Some people cut them off, because obviously when the cylinder's in onto the crankcase, those 4 gaps that I was telling you about, the 4 gaps in the corner, these, they obviously line up with those ports in the bottom, the transfer port holes in the bottom. Now I've widened them for a start. You can probably see just there, look. Made them wider all round, all the way up the cylinder. I've tapered the edges of the cylinder where the transfer ports are as well, so they're nice and wide, and they match the case really well. You can do that by obviously putting your gasket on and off and working out exactly where to go. But yeah, some people take the skirt right off at the bottom. They just chop that straight off. But I decided that I was going to do it this way. Just take the sections out, because in my mind it keeps the strength in. It stops the bottom of the skirt tipping too much. Hopefully it'll make it it'll make it stronger, even though it should make it go better. I don't know, we'll have to see how it goes. But I was going great guns on this. I did quite a lot of work on this cylinder, and then I messed up, because you look inside there, you probably see the exhaust port's gone a little bit high on the roof of the port. And what it is, over here I've got I actually used these they're really good like for doing it, but tungsten tip grinding bits on a die grinder, and that's how I port the larger ports out. And I did make a mistake, because I actually, the end of that, let's see if I can just leave it there for a minute. The end of this is a little bit big to go through, right through. So what I was doing, I was just going in so far and what have you, and then it sort of pulled, and the middle section it went through. Now you might not think that that's too much of a big deal, but when you think that the heights of all the ports are pretty crucial. Yeah, the heights of these ports are pretty crucial, because obviously with a 2-stroke, as the piston comes down, it's supposed to open the exhaust port a fraction of a second before the inlet transfers open. So the piston starts to come down, it's compressing the gases in the crankcase, and it's trying to push them up into the transfer ports, waiting for the ports to open onto the top of the cylinder. So it's now, your gases are under pressure in the crankcase as it comes down just a few mil or whatever. Well, probably about 15 mil actually. And then just as the piston is just cracking open on the exhaust port. That's what's known as blowdown. Now when that happens, because two strokes open the exhaust port when the combustion process is just about coming to the end, but there's still massive pressure inside there, the piston is still traveling down. So what happens then is what they call blowdown. So you get a small crack in here opening, that massive pressure shoots out, and it's under so much pressure that it turns sonic basically. And like I said before, you know, you're looking at, this is doing this 200 times in a second. So as it blows out under enormous pressure, it's the exhaust gases stream out. So the idea is, as they're just streaming out or coming to the end of streaming out, now your inlet's open, your inlet transfers, the pistons travel down further now, so it's still trying to push up the fuel air mixture up into the transfers. The transfers have now opened, so now the fuel air mixture is going in, your exhaust gases are still escaping, and what happens is that fuel air mixture then behind the exhaust gases, you get almost a vacuum really, which encourages those gases to come up even further straight into the cylinder. It's like almost like a turbo effect. So, and then obviously once your piston's gone down enough, all your ports are open for a split second, you know, then it goes back up again and the cycle starts again. So, and this is why I was trying to explain with my with the exhaust. Yeah, okay, you open up your exhausts if you want, but if you open them up too much, you're going to end up basically, you'll just drag all your fuel out, or well, some of your fuel will come out. You'll be wasting power basically, but you'll get higher speed because it'll just circulate a lot easier and faster. And that's why they rev a little bit higher if you open up the exhaust. Doesn't mean that you're going to get any more power though, you'll get less power. So the point I'm trying to make, because I messed up with my tool and I raised the exhaust port, I think it might be too much, I don't know. Thing with port timing, I mean, I know there's one bloke in America who's pretty good on port timing, and the only thing is he mostly works on Huskies, and you're talking of 1 degree. You might adjust them by 1 degree, which is potentially, I don't know, a millimetre maybe on your height of either your ports or your exhaust port. So with me going through, I've worked it out, and I think that middle bit is gone up by 2 mil. So, and because each saw, they have different characteristics, some will cope and work better with a higher port, some won't work as well, you know, so I could have ruined it. But what I did to try and help save it a little bit, I've raised me inlet transfers. I've raised up the inlet transfers inside by about 1 millimetre, which I'm hoping might help compensate. But again, to be honest, it is a guessing game. It really is, unless you've done one on a particular saw like this and you know how far you've gone and it worked well. It's a guessing game. So I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose, you know. I've raised the exhaust port a bit too much, so I thought, right, I'll raise the inlet transfers, which I've done, to try and compensate, and we'll see how it goes. Now, the other thing I've got to do is I've been ifing and ahhing whether to remove the base gasket, which will lower the port even more, which does raise, it will raise all the transfers a bit, but it will also increase the compression ratio. And I've ifed and ahed about it, and I thought, well, I looked at the numbers, and the original squish on this was 1.4 millimeters with the gasket, and the gasket itself is just shy of 0.4 millimeters. Now, one guy, I spoke to a guy who's done quite a few, and he reckons that never go below 20 thou and you squish. He says he would never go below 20 thou. Now 20 thou, just worked it out, it's just shy of 0.4 mil. It's close to half a mil, but you know, well, being as my squish is 1.4 mil, and he's saying don't go below half a mil, 20 thou. My squish is 1.4 mil, so take the gasket off, it's still going to leave me a millimeter. So I thought, I'm going to bite the bullet, I'll do that as well. You know, I don't know whether I'm doing right or wrong really until I try it, until I run it and see what happens. If I haven't, I might end up having to buy another cylinder and start all over again. But then you never know, I might have hit it, I might have done it some good. So we'll have to see that for another day. So I mean, I'm in here today. I've got the fire going, and got the fire going nicely, and I'm because it's a bit cold outside today, but I actually came in here really to rebuild me ms362. So I think I'm gonna shut this video down now, and I'll do another one. I'll do another one at some point to sort of show you what I've done, whether it worked, but we'll see how it goes. So wish me luck. Don't forget, if you can, if you do watch me videos, if you could like or share, whatever, like, it'll help the profile a little bit. So thanks for watching Lutys Chainsaw Mods. Bye for now.